All right, everyone, we are back and live at Parenting Autism United. I'm going to fish us through here on Facebook so we can see any comments that come through. We'll try to at least. So there's that. So we're super excited for everyone. If you've come onto our page for these Ask the Pro nights beforehand, there we go, perfect. So we'll be able to see any comments that come through. It might be on a delay, so just give us a few minutes and we'll answer any questions that come through. I'm Lindsay Dragon with Parenting Autism United, and we're here tonight with Maria Yeager from Autism Behavioral Services, and I practiced that a million times. We are here tonight to just chat and ask the pros. So you are encouraged to ask questions and or throw in your comments for support for other parents or professionals who, are out there and need that. So without further ado, and that's my word of the month, by the way, and I love how it's spelled, I love how it sounds, so without further ado, we're going to jump right into it. And if anyone is jumping on and you have trouble hearing us, just make a comment and we'll move the camera closer. Not that we need to, right? We can hear us pretty fine, I'm sure. So thank you for coming to visit the office. And every day we're hustling here, and the office is always in some kind of transition, which will be a big word kind of throughout our lives with autism. But just tell us a little bit about yourself and Autism Behavioral Services.
Sure. Thank you for having me. So I am Maria Yeager, and I am a BCBA and the clinical director at Autism Behavioral. We're in Wyoming, right before the 8th Street Bridge.
Well, if anyone remembers our old location, it was literally right around the corner, right by the river.
Oh, nice.
So
okay.
It was right there, because we were on where the old Pepe's video used to be, across from Webb Chiropractic. So
yes,
just so you know directionally.
Yes. Yeah, so I have been in the behavioral health field I was doing the math earlier today, a little over 16 years now.
Nice.
Started off as what used to be a TSS, became a BSc once I got my master's, and then have been a BC ever since. Most recently got my BCBA a little over 2 years ago.
Very cool. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, that was interesting. So yeah, I've been doing this ever since. I've been at ABS for a little over 6 years now. So we provide one-on-one behavioral support in the community, schools, homes, really any setting, individual or ABA services. So
you're one of maybe I want to say 6 major providers, service providers that I think the whole community kind of knows.
Yeah, I would say, we're probably pretty recognizable at this point.
I think so.
As far as being in a variety of school districts.
Right.
Luzerne County, Lackawanna County.
It's amazing to know that you guys go into Lackawanna County as well.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
No, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. And how long has Autism Behavioral Services been an entity?
Yeah, so it's been an entity for far longer. I don't know how long before our current, administration, I'll say.
Yeah.
But we have been who we are currently for about 6 years now.
Okay, so before that, it was definitely, I think, around 5 to 10 years maybe. It was is a solid number to talk about, I think.
Yeah, definitely well established.
Yeah. So, and that's awesome to know that things can continue, and it happens in every job. People grow, you change directions, whether it's professionally, personally. But the fact that it didn't close was the best thing in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you all for everything that you do. So one of the things that we're trying to accomplish with these types of social media outlets is getting the information to parents and or behavioral health techs, teachers, other medical professionals, because autism in general is, and you're going to hear those dings all night long because, sorry, I don't want anything that I don't want to turn down the volume and then you guys not hear us. So we're just going to wing it. Don't mind the dings. That just means everyone's participating and liking, okay? Ding away.
Yes.
But the biggest thing is that we see this huge downward trend after COVID, that people leave their house less because we were all able to adjust comfortably to not getting out. And because I presented a grant yesterday, this is very fresh in my mind. After post-COVID, somebody important did big surveys, and like over 60% of people reported that they do leave their house less.
Okay.
And then 75% of that survey said they go out to eat less, but it's not that they're cooking, they're door dashing. They're not leaving their house so that they don't have to socialize, but they're not doing more things.
Right.
They're just getting it delivered now because it now exists.
Yeah.
And it did exist before COVID, but it was not necessarily as affordable or whatever. So it's interesting to see these downward trends that people just aren't leaving their houses, and people actually love not socializing and not getting out.
Yeah.
And I'm not one of those people.
No. No, I'm not necessarily either. We've definitely seen a change, and we have changed even some of our own practices where we're using Google Meet for different things that we would have done in person before. Not so much telehealth services. That was a trend during COVID.
Yeah.
I know some agencies were really using that to their advantage. I think we found that a little more challenging. We were still trying to be in person as much as possible.
It never worked for my family.
Yeah.
You try to school and telehealth on the it would never work for a lot of families.
Yeah.
But so that's why we've switched to these kind of models, is because we know that people aren't going out. So now we're bringing it to you. Yes. So that's essentially where this comes from. So thank you for telling us about yourself and about, some of the history for the current, regime at ABS. And we try to tackle specific topics that everyone is kind of controversial about. Or rare, or things that parents talk about, but when we talk to maybe our service provider during working hours, because we don't message outside of that.
Of course not.
Or the school districts, it's like, hey, everyone is still doing what they can do. Everyone is still short-staffed.
Yes.
Everyone is still behind because there's no way to catch up with the amount of services needed. So with that comes these specific topics that nobody's talking about realistically. And I'm going through this right now, where insurance companies deny the requested amount of hours that are needed for behavioral health techs to spend with our children. And the number one thing I want to say is, well, why don't you come and spend the day with my child and you tell me if they don't need these hours? However, I'm very educated in the fact that we do need to reduce hours. And the magic word for reducing hours is called titration. And you titrate your hours so that whenever it becomes time for your child to be independent, which is the main goal, at that point, it's almost too late if you wait. So yes, titrating hours is extremely important, but there is an art to it, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
We're not titrating at the moment. So if you could shed some light on the process of titration, and will lead into why it's important, and then how it affects longevity for independence, and if that's something that we can touch on, that would be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So I kind of have two opinions on this topic. It kind of, in my opinion, separates into like two different camps. We're either talking about our clients on the spectrum, or we're talking about clients with other diagnoses.
Right.
So, and I feel like the insurance company doesn't always necessarily make that distinction.
Yeah.
I can totally see the point of children with other diagnoses that, maybe we're able to have a little more clear path to titration. Mm-hmm. Autism is a whole different ball game.
Well, and not for nothing, there's that famous saying, if you've met one person with autism,
right,
you met one person with autism. So
absolutely,
if you want to talk about titration for a group of kids, that's just asinine.
Right. It's
Yeah.
almost impossible to have a set of guidelines, which is unfortunately what we're living by.
Okay.
The insurance company is giving us those guidelines, medical necessity.
Yeah.
What constitutes 10 hours a week versus 30 hours a week.
Yeah.
But like you said, you can't really play by a set of rules when it comes to autism. So every kid is so different. So different.
Yeah.
And I think you're absolutely right. I think with titration, we almost have to be planning that from day one of services. But then the progress on that path,
It
there's
changes.
no way
And so
to predict the timeline.
to that point, when we got our initial packet of your projection of services, they projected that he would no longer need services by the age of 14.
Okay.
So now he's 10. And puberty is hitting. And then it's like at a different stage of life.
Yeah.
That, all their brain just works so differently.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no way to tell when their projection is. It should be illegal that they give us that projection.
Right.
As a newly diagnosed family with, at the time, being nonverbal, I was like, we're not titrating ever.
Right.
We're not ever, but then the other part of me is gung-ho, we're going to do this, we're going to do ABA,
Right.
and we're going to make this happen because that's who we are. And as a team, we're the dragons, we can make this happen. We have no control over what is going to happen with any child, including our own.
Absolutely. There's so many factors that play into it.
Yeah.
So there's the child. There's a whole wild card.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. The podcast is calling and they're not getting a call today.
So we have the child on one hand. That's its own entity.
Right.
And then there's the million other factors. Parental support, parental involvement, and then your school environment.
For parental education.
Yes.
Yeah.
Parental education, parental involvement,
Yeah,
their
that.
participation, their willingness to kind of buy into the treatment plan from
That's
the
a
beginning.
whole nother segment.
Whole nother topic. And then there's your educational setting.
Yeah.
We might be providing a level of support that maybe the educational placement is never going to be able to replicate.
Yeah.
So that's a huge factor, and I think sometimes that is maybe something the insurance company doesn't necessarily understand. In an ideal world, they will say things to us like, well, maybe there could be an educational aid, maybe there could be a para. And those are all great thoughts, but are they practical? Are they feasible?
Maybe I could win the lottery.
Right. Also true.
Well, that comes down to even the very beginning of the diagnosis. I was told by a woman from CHOP during our catch team evaluation at WVCA, fantastic organization.
Yes.
But the person who did the evaluation was from CHOP, and she gave me this big paper of things I should do, and I'm like, so who do I call for this, this, and this? She goes, you don't have that here? I said, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And neither do any of the other people here, by the way it looks. But apparently not. And I was right. None of that stuff existed.
Right.
But it was prescribed.
Yeah.
And it's like, what a wonderful world that would be.
Yeah.
If we had access to what we were supposed to have.
Right.
Even, realistically, a lot of these things should just exist. And it's been so hard on our families and our service providers, even before COVID. COVID just made it worse.
Oh, absolutely.
So now we were having this conversation, the world is not the same. So now, when they talk about taking hours away, a lot of the problem is just because they didn't have service service providers.
Yeah.
And the schools can't provide it, even though they're legally supposed to or whatever. Service providers are, we can't keep people on staff. You're burning out the staff that you do have. But let's titrate hours.
Right.
So I know that some parents figured it out that we're not titrating because you don't have staff. We're not going to do that.
Right.
But there's a very real component to titrating. And I'm going to talk over you unless you keep telling me to stop. So,
no worries.
So talk about the importance of titrating. And because I feel like I have this conversation every week.
Yeah.
It's just very upfront we get passionate about these things because they directly affect not only our kids, but our family as a whole.
Absolutely.
It changes life.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, titration, if it's done, I guess I'll say under ideal circumstances, we're planning for it from day one.
Right.
So that means the parents' role in titration and their role in service transfer. So obviously our goal is to try to transfer as many skills to the child's caregivers as possible.
Right.
Sometimes that's easier said than done, either from just family dynamics, family circumstances. There's a lot of factors.
It's a team.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. So if we're doing it properly, we're planning right from the beginning. And it's based upon clinical progress. Nothing else. And I know that's, again, an ideal world. There's obviously always a million other factors. But honestly, we have found, I think, the most success in, I guess I'll say, justifying our hours. By being as thorough as possible. When we submit a packet for authorization, I think we almost try to overkill. We're trying
data or it didn't happen.
Absolutely.
And also, a lot of times I've seen the difference in the way different behavioral health techs take data.
Yes.
And it's
absolutely.
Wait a second.
Absolutely.
Did you note that? And
yes.
How did you note that? And that's
yes.
where you're, obviously that's what you guys
We try to provide a lot of training. We focus a lot of time on trying to train our behavior techs on consistent data collection.
Right.
So if one BHT goes in there, is collecting on average 10 behaviors an hour, and then somebody else goes in the next day and they're documenting one per hour.
Something's
we're kind of looking at that.
Yeah.
So we try to spend a lot of time with our BHTs in terms of documentation training.
Right.
And we are still old school. We still do it on paper.
I'm paper, so I'm good with that.
I do kind of still appreciate,
I feel like the electronics are a distraction to the student.
I think they're a distraction at times. I think
sometimes they don't work.
Hinder the process sometimes because you're trying to get it to work and it doesn't.
Sometimes it deletes everything you just put in. I've seen that happen. So
I think that's why we're so hesitant. We're like, paper doesn't fail us, so we stick with it. But so we spend a lot of time trying to train our BHTs in terms of that regard, so that we have consistent data collection, which is hard. The other thing with titration is we do try to be as upfront as possible with not only the parents, with the school, but with the insurance company as well, to say that, yes, titration is our ultimate goal, but here are the many reasons why we are not there yet.
Yeah.
This is the many reasons why we are not going to start putting that plan into place, because we think it would hinder all of these various things.
Ultimately causing regression or additional behaviors.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's a little bit of a balancing act. Can be difficult from a lot of different avenues. Sometimes schools are very hesitant when we start to present the plan that we're going to start to back off a little bit.
Oh.
And I understand that.
Yeah.
That can be scary. Sometimes parents are very hesitant.
It's frightening. It's not scary a little bit. It's not uncomfortable. It's absolutely frightening.
Yeah.
And it's just something that it has to happen. Mm-hmm. But in a perfect world, how would you begin titration?
Mm-hmm. So in a perfect world, we start titration again with that very specific plan, and I personally am a believer in a slow titration.
Right?
I like very slow titration.
Why does it feel like it's always boom?
Yeah. So I would say typically on average, and I think myself and probably the other BCs at our agency, I think are of a like mind in that we typically try to reduce by increments of 5. So if we're going to go from 30, we'll drop to 25.
Right.
Maybe for a 3-month period, maybe longer, depending upon the kid. It just depends what we think we can accomplish in those increments where we're going to drop.
Okay.
We want to make sure there's a transfer of skills. Absolutely.
Yeah.
If we think something is in place, if I'm implementing, my BHT is implementing reinforcement every 60 seconds to their client, a teacher can't replicate that.
Right.
It's just not feasible.
Right.
So we're not ready for titration at that point.
Yeah.
But if we've now gotten to the point where the client can work for 30 minutes before they get reinforcement, okay, that's a little more realistic.
Right.
A teacher or a classroom aide.
That's typical of them
Yeah.
going around the room and checking on the students. Gotcha.
Exactly. So I think it depends upon, are we providing something that a teacher or a classroom aide, just the staff in general, can replicate? That's like step number 1. Parent input has to always come into it.
Yeah.
If the parents are not on board,
it's not going to happen.
It's not going to work. It's just not.
And you do get families who will never leave.
Right.
There is
that opposite. Yes.
The party is over.
Right.
Like you have to go home.
Right. And we have a lot of those conversations because, like you said, it's scary. It really is. And if you've had services for a long period of time, years, that's
the way life is.
That's how your life is. That's your norm.
But that's why you start early.
Yes.
As day one. So that's the thing. They can explain it better to parents in the beginning. Mm-hmm. This is not when you're projected. In a perfect world, this is when you're projected.
Right.
However, you have to understand as a parent that the service providers and the school districts are not there to just take your child and care for them and work on things until you have them or when they leave school.
Right.
It is across all boards and it covers everyone needs to be on the same page. But that goes for any type of plan, ABA, any of it. Mm-hmm. So if we're working on drinking from a cup at school or at the Autism Center, we need 100%. To work on drinking from a cup at home as well.
Absolutely.
So, okay.
Absolutely.
So titration is no different.
No different. We have to have that transfer of skills. You have to have that buy-in from everyone that we're going to be on the same page. We're going to be carrying over the same skills in every setting.
Yeah.
And like I said, my personal preference is just that slow titration. If we've had services for 5 years, I think it's just unrealistic to think that we're going to wean ourselves out of it in 6 months.
Well, there's a reason that they gave you those hours in the first place. Like Absolutely. They didn't just say everyone starts with this amount and then we see.
Yeah.
No, you go through multiple evaluations before you get any hours. And
very true.
So, I mean, that's where there seems to be, and I know it was there, but it's just harder for parents who don't have a background in medical terminology or anything service field related to understand that these things just aren't going to be there for until we decide that we're ready for that change.
Right.
Because the child may be perfectly ready, but that does not mean that anyone else is ready.
Right.
But that's the thing. It's like you're coaching the families just as much as you're coaching or working
absolutely.
with the child.
I think educating the families too, because like you said, if you don't have experience with this whole process, you know, applying for MA, getting your diagnosis, finding an agency, the wait list, the evaluations, the whole process, it's a lot. It's a lot to take in. It's a lot to know. So I think a lot of our role too is just educating parents on this is how this will go.
Yeah. This is how the state makes it go.
Right. Because I mean, we obviously are bound by a set of regulations. We have to operate within.
So it's not just the state, it's not just the parents, it's not just the service provider, it's not just the school district. You also have the insurance companies. If you have private insurance, it has to go through that first. And that's kind of where we have more issues on my end, is with our private insurance company. But titrating hours, it was so scary to me before I really understood why. So we have to titrate hours. Why?
Yeah, so we really try to frame it. I mean, it is a positive thing.
It is.
It really is. So we try to highlight those positives, that this means what we have been doing all this time is working.
Right.
It has worked, it is working, and that we can teach you the skills so that it will continue to work even long after us.
And if you're doing ABA, it's the only scientifically proven thing to work. So we know it works.
Yes.
It's just
absolutely
how long do we need to do it for?
Yes. Exactly.
Okay. Great.
So so I mean, we try to frame it as this positive end goal, because that's really what it is. And then we try to put it in the perspective of the child as well. And for a lot of our clients, our high school aged clients, you know, early high school, middle high school, which is a lot of my caseload right now. So I feel like I'm kind of living this with them. You know, we have to look at what's best for them as a whole as well. Yes, there might still be benefits to having a BHT with them in 9th grade, 10th grade, but are the cons outweighing that? Are we now hindering them socially? Are we impeding upon peer relationships? You know, high school's a whole different ball game.
So I recognize it with myself, where I keep him from doing things that I know he can do because it's easier for me to get through my day. So if he brings me his water bottle and says, "Can you open this?" I'm like, most of this, for a long time, I would just open it. But now it's like, you open it.
Right.
And it really was very difficult. But then I would notice, okay, you just had veggie straws. Your hands are greasy. You need to go wash your hands so that you can open it yourself. But he already touched the bottle, so it's already greasy. So even if he washes his hands, it's not as easy. But we still have to figure this out.
Right.
Take your sweater, pull it over your hand, and do it. Because if you want a drink, you're going to have to do it yourself.
Absolutely.
So, but in all those instances, the easy road and the easy way to get through life is to just open the damn water bottle. But it's not going to help him at all, ever.
Right.
And he doesn't care. He's not coming to me because I'm mom. He's coming to me because I give him what he wants. If I'm not doing that, he's going to take it to you.
Right.
And if you don't understand what is happening, you're like, "Oh yeah," and I'm like, "No, don't touch." You opened the water bottle.
Yeah.
Drink it. Thank you. You got what you needed, but it won't happen again.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I mean, and this is a conversation that we have continuously, especially with the BHTs, because same thing.
You want to help.
You want to help. That's your inclination. You're there. That's your job. So you want to be providing all the assistance that you need to be, but it's that fine balance between promoting the independence, working on those problem-solving skills. How are you going to work this out?
Fine motor skills.
Absolutely.
Everything.
Absolutely. So we find sometimes that, you know, we almost, not to say we have to force it a little bit, but we have to, we kind of have to use the titration plan to our advantage. Again, carefully done to just kind of make that independence happen, because ultimately that's what has to occur.
Yeah.
I think it's a little different when we have a BHT in a home setting. When they're doing home hours, that's a different scenario than, say, a BHT in a school setting.
If you're like my family, we make sure that any hours that we get can be in any setting.
Yes.
So that's the key to when you're getting those hours. They were saying, like, you have X amount at school, you have 10 at home or whatever. I might as well ask the question. If you don't ask, you don't know. And she just said, oh, sure. I was like, wait, what?
Absolutely.
So it worked out that we were able to say all these hours because COVID.
Yes.
Obviously, everyone kind of, said, do what you got to do for the ones who were working.
Right.
But say, we get an FID day or we have a break or whatever, we can then make those days super functional.
Yes.
So it all comes down to knowing what your options are.
Absolutely.
And then working through and navigating the hours that you get.
I think that was actually a really nice, one of the positive byproducts of COVID, because you're right, during COVID, the insurance company was extremely flexible with us. And if we are able to be out there and providing the service, do it.
Wherever you can.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do it wherever, it really gave us the freedom, and that's that trend is kind of stuck around. So, which is nice because you're right, things have changed again.
Well, and at home, we work on independent living skills. Let's do our laundry.
Yeah.
Instead of just brushing our teeth, let's also wipe down the counter when we're done and dry the water that's everywhere. Right. And my biggest thing is the mirror.
Yeah, sure.
Get that off the mirror because it's all him.
Yeah.
So, but even simple things as walking the dog appropriately, safety at home.
Absolutely.
We practice fire drills at home.
Yes.
So getting the hours to practice and getting the things, but ultimately it's to get our children to be independent adults.
Yes.
If we never give them the opportunity, so I have something really fun to talk about in a minute. Don't ever forget. So nobody likes change. Nobody likes change.
No.
And our kids with autism really don't like change.
Absolutely.
So with all of that, it's like you really have to start titrating, but it's never positive from what I've heard.
It can be really difficult. I think it can be really difficult on all the parties involved. So one of the things we start to look at too when we are ready to start that titration plan is staff.
Right.
So if your child has had the same BHT for the past 5 years and we've never wavered,
that's tough.
That's really difficult.
Yeah.
So long before that, we start looking at staffing.
Right.
Do we need to start alternating staff? Do we need to, at times we'll just kind of throw in a novel BHT at certain times.
Planned change.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Planned change because we want to be able to see that the child can respond to other people and work with other people.
There's a name for that.
Yes, to generalize across staff.
Yes. Generalizing it.
Generalizing across people, across settings.
Yeah.
A lot of generalization needs to happen. But, so looking at the people that they're working with is a huge consideration. I know parents a lot of times too, especially if your child is in a more specialized setting, they might have the same teacher for 2-3 school years in a row, which is good and bad.
Yeah.
So then when it's time for them to move on to the next school building or the next teacher, sometimes that can be really difficult. So even starting to build that in with the school system, starting to kind of slowly migrate them maybe into the next class a few days a week.
Right.
Again, a slow transition. I feel like that's the key to a lot of it. Slow.
I agree. And
we can get there.
Staffing, though, is usually abrupt because it's not usually staffing. It might be because behaviors in a different location spiked and upticked or whatever.
Yeah.
Puberty hit somebody else earlier. You know what I mean? but there's just so much that goes with it. There really is. So it's almost like you have to have not only, it's so hard to give our faith over to our children, because do we know they can do it? Absolutely. But when we have to implement it, it's not as easy.
Yeah.
And then you start to get yourself worked up over the fears of the what ifs. And my child, as a scenario, maybe your child somebody said, oh, go touch Sarah's bottom. Go touch her butt. You won't get in trouble. She said it was okay. Those are the things I think, and because I have a boy and we're talking autism, you can generally say there's infinitely more boys than girls.
Sure. Yeah.
That it's a bigger fear because once they hit a certain age, they'll go to jail. So, and also, not for nothing, if somebody ever touched me, I'm going to turn around and hurt you.
Sure.
I'm not going to say, oh, don't do that.
Right.
I'm going to be like,
Right.
So it's a different world, and it's not the fear that we don't think that they could do it.
Yeah.
It's the fear that people are assholes. And that the world is not kind to individuals with autism.
Yeah.
But that will never change.
Right.
Our kids will still grow into adults. We will die and not be able to take care of our kids as adults. I mean, it sucks.
Right.
But if you have to boil it down, which is what you have to do, that's what it comes down to. We have to provide our children with these skills.
Yes.
To do it on their own.
Yes.
No matter how scary it is.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's horrible.
It is super
I
scary.
hate this. I don't like this conversation.
I know. It is scary in a sense, but I feel like it does matter to, yes, we're providing these kids with as many skills as we can. And I know, I'm sure as a parent, even as a parent myself, it's also who are we surrounding our kids with?
Yes.
So that's, a huge part of it. We are super fortunate that I would say all of the school districts that we work in are so supportive. For the most part, 98% of the time, super cooperative and are willing to work with us, which is a huge piece of the puzzle.
So that's huge. And just as a comment to your comment, as a parent, we see that they want to be supportive, but they aren't really supportive. But maybe they don't understand. But how do you not understand? And then we're super grateful for what we do have. And I had this conversation today. I kind of tend to say, if we were at least in the barrel, we'd be at the bottom of it. But a lot of times I feel like we're underneath the barrel. We're not even getting a lot of times the very minimum. And it's not that it's any specific school.
Right.
It's just the way our world works. Yeah. And a lot of times it comes down to changing big things. I ain't got time for that.
Right.
I can't go down to Harrisburg.
Right.
I can't be a lobbyist. I can't do that.
Yeah.
And nobody cares about our kids more than us.
Yeah. Oh,
so
absolutely.
if we're not doing it, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Which means it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So I appreciate everything that we do have because it saved my life. It saved his life, my other child's life. My husband is able to get through more, Yeah. And we have so much. But whoever stops at we're happy with what we have. Nobody, especially in America.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a constant process, and you would think at this point in time that everyone would be, I guess, more informed, more educated, just in terms of autism in general, in terms of supports, modifications.
Oh, yeah.
But it's still a continual process.
I wasn't worried at all.
I still do encounter teachers who will say, you know, I've never worked with an outside agency before. I've never had a TSS or a BHT in my classroom, which surprises me, but
well,
you know, that's where we're still at.
When we got our diagnosis and they gave me that paper,
Sure.
I was like, sure, I will do all of these things. And that's when I quickly realized that those things didn't exist.
Right.
But it's like, if I thought that I might have diabetes, I could go to a doctor and figure things out and get help.
Right.
If I had a mental, if I had anxiety or depression, there's a million different therapists that I could call. Any other ailment. But with autism, because you can't see it, because it's not Downs or CP,
right,
because you can't see it, everyone, it's so contentious, it's so argumentative, and overall, it's wrapped in this horrible veil of negativity. I need my own drama series here. Yeah. So, but that's what we don't like about it.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, we need to exit this group.
Yeah.
Like, this is not, like, why does it need to be so hard?
Right.
And then we come across a situation where it then happens to us.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, now we understand where they were coming from. And I'm going to check on the kids for just a moment. So pause. I'm not leaving.
No problem.
Jackson and Owen. All right, so Dad's on his way to pick him up. So we were just checking, and we got the phone call.
Saved by the bell.
Literally, there was a ding too.
Yeah.
All right, so Jackson. Okay, tell Dad he's gonna have to come in and get you guys. Come here, Owen. This is our life. So we're going to just take a pause for just a moment, collect our thoughts, and check on our kids because they're right here with us. We didn't leave them alone. Hey, are you guys doing okay out there?
Yeah, what do you want?
I need you to tell Dad to come in and get you when it's time, okay? All right, love you. So we're all good. Everyone's good. High fives, thumbs up. So I see we still have some viewers on. Can you just make a comment and let us know if you can hear our audio still? Just because we've had some different volume things happening today. Show us an emoji or a comment or something. That would be very much appreciated, whatever I'm trying to say. So do that when you have time. Because I videotaped Jackson yesterday, I'm pretty confident in the distance here.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but we're trying out different locations in the office here to see where our videos would be most productive. So this is the sensory room. In case you weren't sure, we have the lights on the walls just to avoid the harsh LED lighting. And we have some lights, so thank you. We can hear us. All right, thank you so much. We very much appreciate that. So, all right, so titration. It's a direct link to independence.
Yes.
And what's the ultimate goal?
The ultimate goal is that we can exit.
You can help others.
And that we can move on to another case. Absolutely. Because I'm sure, as you all know, wait lists everywhere.
It's astronomical.
It really is.
There's no end in sight.
No.
And there are no additional... It's the same amount of people trying to maintain a triple, quadrupled.
Yeah. Hiring is an ongoing struggle. Every agency will, I'm sure, tell you the same thing. Yeah. Hiring is extremely difficult. Retention is extremely difficult.
It's a hard job.
It is. Honestly, it is. You know, you have to be a certain type of person to be able to...
Yes.
Just roll with the punches every day. That's really kind of the crux of the issue. You have to be able to deal with the unknown daily.
I say that all the time. You have to, in this job, we have a lot of, you do get to see a lot of people who are there and then they're on their phones.
Yes.
or something like that. And what's great is that I get to visually watch this and then I learn from it, and I'm like, hey, instead of calling that person out and saying boom, 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 you offer those creative suggestions. And then you realize very quickly that that person doesn't have a creative ounce in their body, and it's not really their fault.
Right.
Because that's a personality characteristic.
Sure.
Can they do the job?
Yeah.
Yes. Can they do it the same way as somebody who is able to pivot creatively?
Right.
Probably not.
Right.
And you're just very lucky when you come across those people. Shout out to so many of our great people. Nicole Andrukaitis, Kate Chandra, who was part of ABS in the beginning. And then also like Serena, Larry, Eric, Emily, Desiree. When we get our people, and that's why we fight so hard to keep them, is because we've had a few bad apples maybe mixed in.
Yeah.
And we saw the work that they're able to get done. But it's not because they're just doing their job. It's because of their passion, their creativity, and their willingness to usually fight for their client.
Yes.
I don't know what's going on unless you tell me.
Right.
And if you tell me, usually I'm going to have a conversation with somebody else about what happened. So that's where the data comes in.
Yes.
Because you guys just document away, and then you say, you should look at that note that I wrote today. Make sure you go look at that note today because clearly something happened.
Yeah.
And there's no, you're not telling on anyone.
Right.
This is not a dog. This is not a car. This is a human being.
Yeah.
First and foremost. And it's my child.
Yeah.
It's, you know,
Oh,
they're
absolutely.
just, they are the most vulnerable subset of individuals. I don't know how to say that differently.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I mean, part of our job, honestly, and like you said, for some, it's easier than others, but part of our job is truly advocacy.
Yeah.
Advocating for our client, but empowering the parents that they can advocate as well. And a lot of parents don't even know that they have the right or the ability to do so.
Well, they send that packet home, and it's this, it's like really thick, and they send it every time.
Right.
And we've done trainings on it. But you could give me a training 25 different times on something that I don't understand. And unless it's presented in a different way, I'm never going to understand it.
Right.
And as much as I want to take all these things and break them down, which I have great ideas for, and it's not like IEPs or procedural safeguards for dummies or anything like that, but it's like parents will agree that they understand things when they clearly have no idea what they just agreed to.
Right.
But they don't want to look stupid.
Yeah.
And they don't want to cause waves because they don't want to, and that's a huge fear.
Yeah.
You know, especially with a parent who has multiple children in the same school district. Are other children going to be treated differently because we put up a stink for the first one?
Yeah.
Or the, you know, whatever it is. Are they not going to make the baseball team?
Right.
Because that person is on the IEP team.
Yeah.
And they, you know, saw me lose my shit like a few times.
Yeah.
And say things that were probably true, but not probably professional.
Right. Right.
So these are true fears. And the reason why we exist is that we get information from other parents. So we take all these tidbits, and then we also provide trainings, and we try to just take it a full spectrum, full circle of information so that parents can make an educated choice.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I mean, I think there could be 10 more organizations like yours, and it probably still wouldn't be enough.
Right.
You know, there is just a lot of education that still needs to happen. Like I said, even schools. I mean, school districts that, again, I'm a little surprised at times that they don't know more about the process.
Yeah.
You know, they've either never worked with an organization like ours, or they're just not 100% clear on the roles. So I have a lot of conversations with teachers about this where they'll say to me, okay, so now that he has a BHT in the classroom, do I not give him directions
no idea
anymore?
what to do. Yeah.
Should I not redirect? Should I not prompt him? Should I just let his BHT do that? So there's a lot of times where I'm like, okay, like let's sit down and let's talk about what your role is, what the BHT's role is, and no, I still want you to treat this child as if you would any other kid in your classroom. You're now just going to have backup, essentially.
Yeah.
When you give him the directive, if he doesn't follow through, the BHT is going to help him follow through.
Yeah.
But a lot of teachers find it intimidating.
It's a slippery slope.
It is a very slippery slope.
You get you know he's going to yell when you tell him to do something.
There's going to be pushback.
You don't want to disrupt the entire classroom. Yeah. Let Mr. or Miss so-and-so take care of it.
Yeah.
And you can just move on merrily with your day. And that is the absolute worst thing for a child like mine who will just take advantage of that and use it. He's so smart. He's so stinky, like with all the things that he does.
Yeah.
But one of the cool things that I'm just going to touch on this before we run out of time, because I know we both have kids that need things today. So one of my ideas, and this is something, there's two ideas. One, there should be an app per state, because every state is different. Every school district is different. There's a lot of things that are just different, but there should be an app for things that we can just do as parents. Yeah. I mean, it's called the World Wide Web. However, it should be better. There should be there should be more out there. Yeah. But the idea that we have submitted in the past for grants, and we have not been successful yet. But have you ever seen the shows, What Would You Do? And it's so great to see the people who stand up to the actors who are being really shitty people, right? They're being horrible human beings, and people, I mean, they get physical, and those are the people we want in our corner every day. But that's not what happens in life. People don't want to be involved. I'm going to go over here. And it's most of the time when it involves a child, they will do it. But our children grow up to be adults. And sometimes not a lot happens for high support needs individuals. Right. They're going to need those supports. Yeah. The spectrum is so big, there's no other way to put it. There's high support needs and low support needs. And then there's a vast world in between. It's so crazy how we can't identify what everything is, but I understand. I'm not a doctor, so I can't do it. But autism in general is still fairly new compared to other things, apparently. Who knows? But my idea is that it's our safety net program, where we take my son Jackson and we go to the grocery store. And I go into Weiss and I go into the produce aisle and I say, go get me a carton of eggs and meet me back right here. But there's a stranger with a video camera following him and listening, like in those shows. Sure. So I would knowingly send him past the gift card kiosk end cap, because I know he's going to get stuck there. But also, he has I don't know what the word is. If there was an old lady in his way, he's taking her out. I gotcha. Okay. All right. If he bumps into somebody, he's not going to really say he's sorry. It's more like, excuse me, and just keeps going. So say it happened once or twice effortlessly. Well, next time we're going to do it where that person, that actor, intentionally does something to set them off. Yeah. To not set them off, but to mess up their game. Sure. To provide these situations. Yeah. Hey, do you want to go to McDonald's with me? How many parents want to know if it would happen? Yeah. Because there's no situation where we can try these things out with our kids safely. So if you, I laugh because we went, his summer camp took him to a park, public local park. And my son starts screaming, I'm being kidnapped. Now, thank goodness there were a handful of other people from, obviously it was a group that went. So it was funny. But if he started screaming that anywhere else,
in a different context,
it's not funny.
Yeah.
He went next door when we were trying to make a bank deposit, and he said, "I'm here to rob the bank." Well, it was cute because it was a 9 or 10-year-old. Mm-hmm. But they said, "Oh, it's okay." I said, "Well, it's really not."
Right.
Because if he says it now, he's going to say it when he's 23, and then he's going to go to jail.
And looks like a full-grown adult.
Yeah. So, and where's the vault? So these are the things that we're working with, but there's no safe way for us to try these things.
Right.
Unless we had a grant or a donation that would really help us provide these controlled scenarios with strangers. Mm-hmm. So they would have to be actors. Mm-hmm. And actors is somebody grocery shopping, like in those "what would you do" things. So here's the thing. Everything that we want to do, we're doing anyway. Mm-hmm. It just might happen for my child first. Right. And then with my cell phone, and you can have a Bluetooth in, and it's not and somebody could be with their phone, videotaping, and we could even if it wasn't like a live stream to me or whatever it was, we can dissect that video later. Right. So we can make things happen. Sure. That's never something. Anything is possible is what I'm trying to say. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of time and how many people can you help doing it. Right. So this is my goal for the entire summer coming up, by the way, setting up. So I'm going to be taking all sorts of volunteers for actors because I can't pay you yet because there's no grant for it. Right. But eventually I want it to be we would pay, volunteers or whatever. If you're going to the grocery store anyway, let me know when you're going. And we could set this up and have your student who can then, your child, who could then add this to their thing. Because I appreciate the trips to the grocery store, but they're always with their behavioral health tech. Right. I appreciate the trips here, but they've never been given a chance to succeed. Yeah. And they never will. Yeah. Because it's too dangerous for a family to do that. Yeah. So that's my grand idea. Yeah. We need an app for community mapping is what I want to do for an app. And we had a great consultant who came in and plugged an idea for something else, but I was like, I don't want to do that. I would rather do something like this. Not that either one of them will ever happen because this is as techie as I get. But the other thing, we just need cameras kind of following us around so that everyone can learn what to do. But we can't realistically titrate hours until we know. And how do you know? You're never going to know. Mm-hmm. So then you just fight to keep as many hours as you can, and we never titrate, or we just get very angry. And it shouldn't be an angry process. Right. And unfortunately, you're right. A lot of times titration, even just the word, I bring it up in a conversation to a parent or to the school or in an IEP meeting, and it's a hard conversation. Yeah. It is, but I think on our end, a big part of our job is to try to present as good a plan as we can. Like you said, there's no perfect world where I could, unfortunately, test out all of these real world situations. It's also an art too, and we try very hard to portray this to our BHTs. Just because you're taking that step back, just because you're fading your support a little bit, doesn't mean... Big word, fading. Yes, we love fading. Doesn't mean you're not doing your job. Right. On the contrary, you're probably doing your job really, really well if you're able to start to fade your prompts and your directions, and even just give them the physical space. Move back a row in the classroom. And that's also the important part of changing the behavioral health tags. Mm-hmm. Not only are you working on generalization, but you almost get too comfortable. Absolutely. And you're able to read your client. Absolutely. And it took me many years. Don't think I just know that. It took me many years to be okay with that. I fought tooth and nail to keep the people who I wanted with him because I would just see her. I'm like, this is our goal. I'm like, he can't drink out of a straw. She'll send me a video within an hour and a half. She's like, he can do it. Mm-hmm. I was like, how can I? That's the thing though. Generalizing that anywhere else, I didn't have the skills, and I don't think anyone has those skills as a parent unless you go back to school to be an ABA therapist. Right.
I mean, it is difficult, and obviously, you know, we don't expect you all to become ABA therapists, but I think that's where the home hours come into play.
Yeah.
If you're doing home hours well, you're working with the parent.
Yeah.
You're not just there working with the client, you're working with the parents as well to show you, you know, what can be done, what needs to be done. And like you said, a lot of times they'll do things for us that they won't do for their parents. I mean, my own children will do things for their teachers.
And that's the dynamic.
They won't do it for their parents.
You're not a therapist, you're a parent.
Exactly.
But
it's a different role.
It's a different role. And if you go too far in one direction, you lose that bond.
Absolutely.
And I feel like I did that in the beginning because, again, we're dragons and we're going to win. And we're a team and, you know, we don't quit. And sure enough, I got beat down.
Yeah.
And I lost that bond that I had with him. And we talked about it with Rachel Martin and Mary Vanesco from Well Nurtured Development. It took me a few years to get that bond back.
Yeah.
So it is a very fine line. And sometimes play on the freaking iPad.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is that. I wanted to say a very bad word. So, but he says it. But for the most part, I know that insurance companies had tried to require parents to get some level of training to keep their hours. Is that a thing? Did that happen? Did that try? Okay. So do you guys ever offer through your organization training to the parents as like not a one-on-one, like as a group?
We don't, not currently.
It hasn't been successful in the past for a lot of things that we've tried or that we've attended or seen. Yeah. Because nobody wants to go to a group event.
Right. So a lot of the parent transfer of skills is just through our home hours. It's through the BC, being in the home, working directly with the parents. A lot is just our communication as well between, you know, we sort of at times kind of play the middleman.
Oh, yeah.
You know, communicating between the school and home and maybe speech and OT and kind of all the different entities put together. So I think having that communication is key. But a lot of our parent skill training is just happening one-on-one in the home setting.
We've come across some parents who won't let anyone in their home because
we come across that too.
Because of many reasons, but one of the reasons is that, like when we were doing early intervention and I started going to all these parent events, which I was usually the only parent there,
right?
Which was great for me. I had all these professionals at my disposal, and I got to meet everyone, and then they were saying something, and what had happened was he would crawl. We had to remove everything from his room because he was literally climbing the walls like the Ring, and everything would come off, and that's dangerous. Those are frames. I mean, he would hang off of the curtain tie back, or it's screwed into the wall. He ripped that out. Like we literally had him in what felt like an institution, but he never slept in his bed after we removed him from the crib. He would take all his clothes out of his drawers and make a bird's nest. And so what I did, because he would sometimes pee through his diaper or whatever. Usually that was it. Not or whatever. I mean, that was that. But I would have to wash all his clothes. Right. Because I didn't know, and you can't not know, so you wash them all. So of course I and that's also how he was climbing. So I put the locks on the doors. I went in, I was like, where is he? He had found his way into his 2-foot wide closet bottom. So we found out later that he likes pressure. Okay. So sleeping in a bed, he wasn't going to do it. He also wouldn't take a blanket. He only wanted pillows on top of him. Okay. So I made him a cloud bedroom. I had all pillows, because he was waking up with all those marks on his face. Yeah. So I was like, well, I'm a bad mom. I'm going to make his room, and it's a small room. So we took the bed out and had the like a little thing on the floor, and it was covered with pillows and things for him to do what he was wanting to do. I was told, I'm going to get CPS called on me because by law, he has to have a bed and a mattress off of the floor. And I was like, oh, well, they can come here and tell me that then. Go ahead. Yeah. I was confident, though. Other parents are not. Right. I was like, okay, I have video and images of all the destruction from a regular room.
And the safety concerns.
The window and he could move it's not heavy, and he was a big boy, even at like 2 and 3 years old. So I was like, all right, let them come.
Yeah.
But it didn't make me feel less shitty.
Yeah.
Like somebody just threatened to call CPS on me. Like, what the,
Yeah.
But that cloud room is beautiful, and I want to sleep in it. Like, it was beautiful.
Yeah, it sounds fantastic.
Right? But that's the thing. So I understand some hesitation, and people are not trusting in certain situations.
Oh, for sure.
But it's not about you.
Yeah.
It's about your child.
Sometimes I think that's a hard message to get across. We get 1,000,001 different reasons
why you can't go in.
To why they don't want us in the home. And, we have to respect that. But, I mean, it does become a barrier to treatment at some point. We can do what we can during the 6 hours that they're in school. But if we don't have that home piece to it.
Doing laundry in a gymnasium or a different like situation where they have it like set up as a simulation is not the same as doing laundry at home.
No.
It's just not going to be the same. So anyway, titration is extremely important. It's positive, whether we want to believe it or not.
It can be, yes.
And it's a desperately important piece to your child becoming independent.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if nothing else, that's massively, like, let that sink in.
Right.
I've been watching the British baking show. So let it be the syrup that sinks into the cake. We're big on analogies. Whatever you have to do to get it, we'll help you figure that out. And that's the app I wanted to do. Like, take one thing and figure out like 15 different like analogies for it. Just to make it even more fun. Because if you're having fun, you're going to remember it faster.
Yeah, absolutely.
And whatever works for you doesn't work for the next person, right? That one person with autism is one person with autism, but so is everybody.
Yeah.
We are not the same.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's not that different from anyone.
I just don't understand.
Yeah.
One of the things that we promote here is one community, not the autism or Down syndrome or, whatever. It's one community, and we're all in it together. So we have to be able to allow these individuals to be in the community.
Yes.
I look at the trouble with transitions for vocational stuff. I have many participants that come here during the day. There's not a lot of other places they can go.
Right.
So it's very important, and we do need to do it, and you have to do it in a way that works best for you. And if you don't do it, you will be a caregiver until the day you die.
Yes.
Even though we're always, as parents, always going to be a caregiver till the day we die.
Unfortunately,
it's different.
When we don't do titration properly, then what ends up happening is we take that child or young adult to 21, and then
Group homes.
Disappear.
Yeah, well, they're either at home if they have family.
Yeah.
They'll go to a group home if they are not able to do those things. But then the workers at the group homes are the ones then responsible too for bringing them out. And that's what we love to see, because you can learn anything at any age.
Absolutely.
And it's really important, but you have to hope that you're getting a good place with good people doing the right things.
Yeah. There's a lot of unknowns with it, unfortunately. And when we have to make that kind of hard out at 21, I think it's devastating for everybody involved.
And it's not just a hard out for you, the school district, the families, it's medical professionals, because it's at 18.
Everything changes.
I think it might change for medical. And people call us, and I'm like, I'm calling you.
Right.
Like, I can't help you. I'm calling you for help.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, nobody knows what to do.
Yeah.
So it's scary, but we're here. We can get more done together, and we can keep talking about it, and we can keep doing things, and that's what we're going to keep doing. So I do want to thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And I'm going to figure out one system in this space that works for this type of thing. It may be a podcast thing. I don't know. But I do appreciate you working with all the kinks today, and thank you so much. And because you live so close, I might ask you to come on more. But it was a pleasure talking with you.
Yes,
and if anybody has any questions, do you mind if I send them to you?
No, not at all.
Okay. So if you have any questions at all, we can always forward them appropriately to the right people and get the resources. That's technically what we are here for anyhow.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then just a real quick side note, Sunday we do have our Cowabunga Christmas event, and it's here in this back room. So we will have Michelangelo here. And so you can message us to register, and we would be more than happy to get you guys coming. So it's this Sunday from 12 to 2. And if the big guy in red isn't scary enough, we have a green guy in red with another mask on. A mask on the mask with a suit. So, but we'll be here and have fun, and we hope you guys can join us. So thank you all, and we will see you very soon. Thank you, Doug. Appreciate it. All right. Have a wonderful night, and we'll see you guys soon. Bye.